Disorientation gives way to consciousness. A man's gloved hands twitch as he slowly awakens in an unfamiliar room, wondering what is happening. Suddenly, a door slides open and a woman's cheerful voice cuts through the haze, announcing to everyone that Jakoan has finally woken up. He finds himself surrounded by a group of women. Their faces a mix of relief and affection. He realizes he remembers them. One expresses how worried she was that he wouldn't wake up, while another playfully chides the group for trying to monopolize Jakoan's attention. The scene shifts to a memory of a distant past. This is Jakoan, the king of the demon world. For several thousand years since ascending the throne, he has remained undefeated, effortlessly striking down the countless demons who dare to challenge his rule. His reign coincided with a large-scale war between the demon race and humans. The conflict was devastating, and in its midst, so many men lost their lives that the female population became the overwhelming majority in the human world. Despite this, humanity, on the verge of extinction and barely able to produce descendants, managed to reach the Demon King one last time. They succeeded in cornering him. In that final confrontation, a human warrior faced him. She acknowledged him as their greatest and final enemy, stating that one more strike would end the war. But before that, she had a request. She wanted to see his true face. She turned to her companion, asking if she agreed. The memory and the present merge as the women around his bed echo the sentiment. One notes that he hasn't shown his true face in thousands of years, and they all wish to see it one last time. Another's desire is more violent. She wants to punch the one responsible for her life of endless battle. The sentiment is shared. Some just want to see, while others want to beat him to death. Hearing their collective demand, the Demon King relents. He concedes that they are right. For one last time, his long-fingered, gloved hand reaches up to the ornate mask covering his face. As his fingers touch the mask, the women watching him in the present gasp, their expressions turning to ones of utter shock and confusion. His own thoughts drift inward. He wonders how long it's been since he last took off the mask. It has been so long that he himself has not seen his own true face, a sight known to only a few of his most trusted subordinates. He opens his eyes, a single thought echoing in his mind. Was he truly this silver-haired man, smiling so wretchedly? His face is now fully revealed. Long silver hair, pointed ears, and dark horns. A faint, mocking smile plays on his lips as he looks down at the stunned women, asking if they are surprised and calling them pathetic. He stands before them, explaining that while his youthful appearance might resemble their heroes, it is merely a facet of his immortality. He declares that he has lived for countless years. The women stare, utterly stunned. One of them, her eyes wide with shock, whispers in disbelief, questioning if he is truly a man. He maintains his confident smile, ready to address them further. Spreading his arms wide, he asks if they are satisfied, addressing them directly as 5 strong and beautiful Valkyries. The compliment throws them into disarray. They exchange flustered glances, one stammering in confusion, another blushing at being called beautiful, while a third wonders what has happened. Their flustered state puzzles him. He wonders aloud if he said something strange, questioning if it was the word beautiful that caused such a reaction, as he only meant it as a compliment. He stops, a sudden realization dawning on him. He understands now. The number of men in the human world must have drastically decreased after the war. He looks at the blushing women and realizes the truth. They are pathetic in a way, having lived their lives completely without the simple contact and relationships that were once common between men and women. He stated plainly that there was no avoiding it. It was simply a fact. He continued, telling the women they could be proud of their beauty, a compliment he offered as someone who had seen countless humans over thousands of years. The 2 women stared, stunned into disbelief. He added with a serene smile that if he had one, it would have been a shame to bury such beautiful bodies. His final words, he explained, were a regret that he would not be able to see the kind of world they would create. The dark-haired woman, however, flushed as she imagined he would have possessed them to make them his own. He raised his voice, declaring that since they had defeated him, that was no longer possible. Instead, he wished them well in finding happiness as women in the world to come. The woman with red and blue hair stared, her eyes wide with shock. The words struck the woman, who slumped to the ground, muttering in confusion as she tried to process what she had just heard. Her mind raced, twisting his meaning into a completely different conclusion. She threw her head back and screamed, "I was proposed to, in marriage." Her outburst ignited a flurry of reactions. One woman declared it was impossible to resist such a handsome man. Another admitted that while she despised the demon race, she had to concede he was a man of good taste. The dark-haired woman announced the battle was over and that they would now protect the Demon King. The declaration was followed by action as the women swarmed him. He cried out in confusion, asking what they were doing. One woman staked her claim, shouting that Jakoan was hers, much to the shock of her comrade, who couldn't believe she was addressing the Demon King so familiarly. He pleaded with them as one of the women laid out a plan. They would announce that the Demon King is dead and take him for themselves. Then, she proposed the 5 of them could discuss who gets to keep him as a husband. Another shouted her immediate agreement. He struggles against his bonds, horrified. As the vanquished Demon King, his end should have been honorable, not this humiliation. He pleaded for them to kill him, to not take him with them. With the last of his magical strength, he resolves to self-destruct rather than endure this fate, screaming for them to get away. His body begins to fill with a destructive magical power. The woman with reddish-brown hair senses the surge, realizing he's trying to self-destruct. She identifies his horn as the origin of the power and urgently calls out for Anist. In response, the dark-haired mage, Anist, confirms she will cast the binding spell. She reaches out, her magic swirling, and tells another of their group, Shiny, that the rest is up to her. With the binding spell taking effect, the woman with reddish-brown hair leaps into action. Her blade descends in a swift, decisive arc, cleanly severing Jakoan's horn. She momentarily worries if she misjudged her strength, but Anist reassures her. With the horn gone, he no longer possesses enough magic to end his own life. The reddish-haired woman then voices a new thought. As long as Jakoan is quiet, everything is fine. Her idea spreads among the group. Since the horns are now uneven, she proposes they take care of the other one as well. The others agree it's a brilliant plan. This consensus was the last image he saw in the Demon King's castle before everything faded. After that, only darkness. Then, a single eye flutters open, a tear of despair tracing a path down his face. He awakens to a landscape he's never seen, realizing his attempt to die had failed. He wonders where he is and what they planned for him, his attention drawn to a strange jewel now embedded in his chest. The woman with the braided hair, Shiny, appears and asks if he likes the place, describing it as quiet and pretty. She smiles warmly, blushing as she admits she won't tell him where they are. It would be a problem for her, she explains, if he were to immediately return to his castle. Leaning closer, she adds that it would make her very happy if he called her Shiny. Her intimate request is met with furious glares from the other 4 heroines, who watch from nearby, one accusing her of being a cheat for getting so close to him. She introduced herself as the Archer, declaring that while she once aimed to wound Jakoan's body in the Demon King's castle, she would now aim for his heart. Another, DEFEATS, asserted that a strong man needs a strong woman. A third, Anist, pledged to serve him as a legitimate wife, using the magical power she had cultivated. The fourth, Kururu, simply stated that she is always watching him. Overwhelmed by their declarations, Jakoan realized with dawning horror that this might be the first time in his thousands of years of life that he regretted his own words so deeply. His regret solidified into terror as the 5 women closed in around him, their expressions intense. One of them promised that she would make sure he spent the rest of his life with his beloved in this house. He could only think to himself that he had somehow managed to appeal to some truly dreadful humans. And so, the days of suffering for the Demon King, Jakoan, began. Outside a large manor, one of the heroes, DEFEATS, announces with a blush that from this day forward, Jakoan will be living with them. She confesses she would have preferred to have him all to herself, but the captured Demon King cannot accept this new reality. He stares at the group of women, sweat beading on his face, wondering if they are even sane. DEFEATS simply notes that they are all quite persistent. Surrounded, he finds the idea of living with the very enemies he faced for the sake of the world utterly mad. He concludes they are mentally unstable and that he must escape from them as quickly as possible. His eyes dart around the mansion grounds, noting the trees and rocks as potential hiding places. Though he has lost his magical power, he believes he can at least run, desperately searching for an escape route from his prison. Seizing an opportunity while they seem distracted, he makes a break for it, bidding a silent farewell to the Valkyries. His escape is immediately cut short as DEFEATS and Anist call out his name, their attention snapping back to him. Suddenly, an invisible force slams him to the ground, forcing him into a kneeling position with his hands bound. He is horrified to realize his body moved completely against his will. DEFEATS watches, remarking that she cannot let her guard down for a single second. Anist reveals the cause, the jewel of eternal servitude. She explains they took the coercive artifact from the Fire Dragon King before their final battle. Its power seals any form of rebellion, from escape to suicide, and his current state proves its flawless effectiveness. DEFEATS cheerfully adds that it was brilliant they managed to defeat him without injury, though she feels conflicted about using it on her husband. She also notes the steel jewel prevents him from running or even biting his tongue. With the situation under control, DEFEATS turns to Shiny and suggests it's time to reveal the secret of their location. She gives credit to Kururu's efforts, beginning to explain where exactly Jakoan now is. Anist reveals they are at the base of the Kingoku region on the continent of Totemotoi, the opposite side of the world from his castle. She explains that Kururu's space-time magic can instantly teleport them to any place she has visited. The realization dawns on Jakoan. He is in the worst possible location, with absolutely no hope of escape. He found himself in a developing country, unaffiliated with the Alliance, and with little civilization. It was the perfect place for isolating someone. The location was so remote that no one ever went near it, and it was further secured by a magical barrier. He wondered if it was less to stop people from entering and more to prevent his own escape, even in his weakened state. But he already knew the place and its surroundings. There was something else that concerned him. His attention was on the women with him. The one with red hair and blue streaks asked what had happened with the war. DEFEATS answered for him, stating plainly that the great Demon King was defeated and the heroes had won. She continued, explaining that while the demon army lost its leader, the human army was also in disarray, as the 5 most outstanding heroes were now missing. Jakoan retorted, his voice sharp, that if that were true, the world would never tolerate his survival. With a dramatic flourish, Shiny declared that at the moment their ultimate attacks clashed, a mysterious flash of light engulfed both sides, causing them to vanish. DEFEATS calmly added that with both armies busy searching for their respective leaders, the outcome of the war remained ambiguous, a consensus they had all reached. She then recalled a strange concern voiced by one of Jakoan's own subordinate generals. The general had feared that if the great Demon King were defeated, humans, fearing immense power, would turn on each other. The general's words predicted a new era where humans would persecute other humans, deeming them a greater threat than the Demon King. DEFEATS confessed that these words had bothered her right up until their battle, but Jakoan's courtship had solidified her decision. They, the heroines, once branded as the evil of humanity, decided it was better to be reported as missing. She looked at him with affection, declaring that more important than becoming heroines or gaining fame was finding the man they love. The other women in the room seemed to share her sentiment. They tried to understand, but couldn't grasp it. These young girls had homes and families to return to, yet their faces now looked lonely. The red-haired woman with blue streaks grew annoyed at his confusion, while Shiny cheerfully suggested they go flirt in the garden. The annoyed woman then offered to prepare something special for him in the kitchen. He is immediately bombarded by their competing affections. DEFEATS pleads for them to wait, flustered by the simultaneous demands. The red-haired woman insists he must be hungry and offers to cook for him until he's full to bursting, while DEFEATS suggests they use the jewel's power to go for a walk together. The suggestions grow more invasive. Anist proposes injecting her own magical power into the gem to enhance its control. Kuru, with a dark expression, laments that she might never die, her only wish being to sleep beside him. DEFEATS observes that Jakoan is sweating because 2 others are arguing over who gets to bathe with him. He stands outside, clutching the jewel, his mind racing. He understands the magical barrier extends just beyond the garden, and its power is absolute. Escape is impossible. The horrifying thought that he will spend the rest of his days as an endlessly suffering puppet grips him as he frantically searches for any possible way out. His desperate thoughts are interrupted by DEFEATS, her expression turning menacing. She warns him that she will get genuinely angry if he continues to think of escaping. Anist joins in, dismissing his fear as shyness and remarking that a little taming is in order. The Demon King is aghast at the prospect of living with his sworn enemies. A sudden, wild grin spreads across his face. He internally scoffs at their naivete. The 5 heroes, once the hope of the world, now reduced to this. He concludes that his life is now worthless, and his only viable strategy is to feign compliance, recalling that they have, in truth, already died once. He resolves to completely shatter their infatuation and disappoint them. He boasts of his millennia of existence, during which he has courted countless beauties. He internally scoffs at the idea that such young girls could move his heart and decides his only option is to manipulate them into killing him, even if it requires telling the most vile lie imaginable. With a cold, calculating gaze, he begins his vile tale, claiming he took women endlessly, violated them, and forced them to scream with pleasure. He continues, his voice laced with feigned madness, declaring that he broke them and amused himself by turning them into mindless dolls of flesh. All the while, he knows it is a complete and utter fabrication. He smirks, referencing a human expression about 100-year love growing cold, and boasts that he has managed to extinguish such feelings in a mere instant. He then directly challenges them, urging them to channel their murderous intent towards him as the women stare back, stunned. But their reaction is not one of horror. Instead, they blush, intrigued by his depraved confession. Shiny, the archer, asks with a curious smile if he enjoys sex that much. Anist, equally unfazed, giggles and questions how he even reached that conclusion. She found his feigned depravity to be simply ideal. The other women agreed, remarking that in the current mortal world, they had never seen a man with such a voracious sexual appetite. As they moved to begin, Jakoan pleaded with them to stop, to calm down, and keep their clothes on. His pleas fell on deaf ears. The women declared they couldn't let such a beautiful and sexy man get away, inviting him to embrace and break them. As one of the women climbed on top of him, Jakoan despaired. He realized with dread that for some reason, everything he did went wrong. He had made a bad decision yet again. Suddenly, his panic was cut short by the sight of splattered blood. It wasn't his own. He demanded to know whose it was, his voice laced with confusion as the women around him also questioned what was happening. The answer lay on the floor before him. The 5 Valkyries were bleeding from their eyes. A chilling thought struck Jakoan. These girls were already mad, even before he had embraced them. He stood over their collapsed forms, a strange sense of relief washing over him. He didn't understand what had just transpired, but he felt as though he had been saved. But was he truly saved? He found himself in a remote place, one rarely visited by humans. Though the immediate threat was gone, his desperate situation had not changed. He wondered what he should do now, as his life of confinement began anew. Outside a large, timber-framed mansion, DEFEATS calls out orders. She tells Kuru it's been a week since Jakoan's arrival, marking it as a special day. She instructs her to clean a room that morning and tells Shiny to get other things ready by the evening. Elsewhere, Jakurai reflects on the uneventful week that has passed. He recalls the day of their battle, remembering how it looked like all 5 heroes had fallen, bleeding, yet in the end, none of them died. He realizes with disdain that it was merely nosebleeds caused by overexcitement. The heroes were simply not used to men. He concludes that he didn't even need to use magic or wage a war. He could have easily won just by sending handsome men to face them. His thoughts shift to analyzing his captors. He recalls finding a strange weapon on the archer, but it was too late. Her aim is perfect, but he suspects she hasn't used her full power yet. He then considers Karu, a master of hidden weapons. Though she looks like a child, she is incredibly cruel, responsible for numerous casualties through strangulation and poisoning. As an expert in stealth, she is likely watching him even now. He continues his assessment. Divyas, the fighter, uses a form of martial arts that is lethal at close range. A single blow can smash through stone. Anist, the mage, looks young, but her magic is stronger than that of most demons he has faced. And Shiny, the swordswoman, wields a massive blade with ease, against whom even demons with special weaknesses struggle. He considers the jewel affixed to his horn. To fight them, he would need his full power, which means first dealing with this jewel. However, he doesn't know which of the 5 women placed it on him. The magic is incredibly complex, leading him to believe they may have cast it together. He resolves that he must figure this out first. His thoughts are interrupted by Divyas, now wearing an apron and holding a ladle. She calls out to him, asking if he's trying to escape again. She announces she's making dinner and, noting that humans and demons likely prefer different foods, asks what he likes and dislikes. Jakurai, taken aback, denies trying to escape and questions if she is actually going to cook. She blushes, asking if it's strange for a girl to enjoy cooking. With a bright smile, she explains that she loves it and often cooked for everyone during their travels. Internally, Jakurai concedes that it isn't strange at all. Despite this, he politely declines her offer, stating that he appreciates it but will cook his own food. In the background, a man doing laundry remarks that times have changed, as the balance between men and women in the world is now broken, making it normal for men to do all the housework. Her face falls in shock at his refusal. She insists that she wants the person she likes to eat her cooking. As she stands there, flustered, Jakurai observes her. He thinks that she's making a face like a normal girl, and questions who would believe she is the strongest hero in the world. A dark thought crosses his mind. Perhaps she's worried he would poison the food. He was the subject of Divyas' vivid daydream. She imagined him wearing only an apron, coyly asking if she wanted a bath, dinner, or him. The fantasy was so potent it caused a violent nosebleed, making her cry out as she wondered what she would do if he actually said such a thing. Snapping back to reality, she wiped the blood from her nose, admitting she got too excited and started daydreaming again. Jakurai, now fully dressed, asked if there was anything she couldn't eat. She replied that demon food was basically the same as human food, pleased with herself. With that settled, Divyas presented her first offering, a steaming bowl of soup. She placed it on the table, encouraging him to try it. He took a spoonful, identifying it as a seafood soup. He noted that the onions had been cooked until they melted, lending a sweetness to the vegetables. His assessment was overwhelmingly positive. He declared it was good enough to be a main dish, with a rich, deep flavor that spoke of great care. The bacon and potatoes, he added, made it very filling. Divyas was ecstatic at his praise. Her delight was immediate. She pumped a fist in victory, celebrating her success. Jakurai watched her, thinking how innocent she seemed, so easily pleased. Her thoughts, however, turned to the spoon he used, realizing that drinking from the bowl would constitute an indirect kiss. The thought sent her into a frenzy. Exclaiming that the dish had touched the lips of the boy she liked, she devoured the entire plate in a blur of motion. Jakurai stared in utter shock, wondering if she was even human, as not even demons would eat the dishware. Her fervor didn't wane. She mused aloud about what would happen if they actually kissed, given the reaction an indirect kiss caused, flustering Jakurai. Her tone then shifted as she leaned in, telling him she felt bad saying this to her boyfriend, but wanted to tell him something just in case. Her expression darkened, her eyes wide and intense as she loomed over him. She gave him a chilling reassurance, just so he knew none of the 5 of them would die from something like poison. Her words, meant as comfort, had the opposite effect. Completely unnerved, Jakurai bolted from the room, shouting that he was going to get water from the well. He promised to try the chicken when it was ready in 15 minutes, yelling at it not to run away as he fled. He stood with Anist, his mask now gone, muttering about how frighteningly fast humans evolve. As Anist asked what he was talking about, Divyas approached, having just finished a job. She suggested they take a walk together, and Jakurai reluctantly agreed to join them for a short while. As they walked, Anist commented on the peacefulness of the area, finding it hard to believe a war had just occurred there. Jakurai grumbled that he still dislikes humans, but she seemed not to hear, remarking instead on the amazing power of love. She elaborated with a blush, explaining that love changes everything, making people abandon their roles as heroes or even demon kings. She then turned to him, asking if he agreed. He could only stare back, completely baffled. Leaning closer, her expression intense, she rephrased her question. Or should I say, darling? A chill ran down his spine. He recognized the feeling instantly. It was fear. She began a confession, admitting she was never afraid of weapons or magic, but of a world where it was just the two of them, forever. She explained that while she'd love to run away with him, Shiny and the others would track them down. She apologized, saying she realized he had to live this way. He processed her words, the thought piercing his mind. Her love for him was twisted. Her eyes seemed so honest and pure. Yet he saw the terrifying truth. She genuinely believed he loved her back, without a single shred of doubt. She continued, claiming that deep down, he wanted her to do these things. She suggested he felt this way because Shiny and the others had stopped giving him morning hugs and head pats. Her voice remained soft as she insisted he felt hurt and dirty, claiming he was too weak to fight back when the other women touched him. This, she asserted, was what he was truly thinking. She then reached a hand toward his face, adding a final accusation, that in the past, he had touched many women as if they were nothing more than dolls. But, she declared, her shadow looming ominously, don't worry. I'll clean you up right here and now. Questioning whoever said she loved him, she began to gather immense energy. As the world warped around her spell, Jakoan cried out, asking if she was insane. With a cold, focused gaze, Anist gave the final command, explode. Her spell did not annihilate Jakoan, but instead seared away his skin completely. She asks if it hurts, but reassures him not to worry, casting a giga healing spell. She promises he will be fully healed in seconds, with a body untouched by any other woman. As DEFEATS watches in horror, realizing the true, twisted purpose of the attack, Anist beckons to Jakoan, declaring that his first hug and first kiss now belong to her. As she reaches for him, urging her darling to embrace her with his brand new arms, her advance is abruptly halted. A commotion from outside her magical barrier, the distinct sounds of fire and explosions, catches her attention. The source of the disturbance reveals itself. A colossal sky dragon, its dark scales blotting out the sky as it descends upon the area. Its power is immense. With just 2 strikes, the creature shatters Anist's magic barrier. She stares upward in disbelief, finding it impossible for a wild monster of such high rank to be in this peaceful place. The only logical conclusion is that someone is controlling it. Nearby, DEFEATS shouts their names in alarm, asking if they're all right. But the dragon itself speaks, its voice filled with fury, questioning how they dare to interfere in its love nest, the one belonging to it and Jakoan. The truth is revealed. The dragon is Jakoan. Though he seems to be controlled by an unknown party, he recognizes this chaos as his only chance to escape Anist's grasp. A massive sky dragon soars above a large mansion, its powerful wings beating the air. Below, a man with spiky hair and sharp teeth grins, impressed by the dragon's display. He observes that while a powerful barrier protects the estate, a single hole has been breached. With a predatory gaze fixed on the mansion, he addresses the pathetic heroes within, expressing his anticipation for the confrontation to come. Elsewhere, a dark-skinned elf woman with long, light hair looks on with disdain. She remarks on the magnificent estate, lamenting that they lack the funds for such a place. She muses aloud that if they had a man with them, they wouldn't have to be so frugal, suggesting even a role-playing pimp would be an improvement. The spiky-haired man, now flanked by Anist and crew, issues a booming challenge. He shouts for anyone who doesn't wish to be slaughtered to come out and face them. Anist adds her own declaration, announcing that the great thief brigade genociders have arrived to take everything. From a distance, DEFEATS observes the intruders, her expression hardening. She wonders aloud who they are, questioning what business they could have with the home she shares with Jakoan. She turns to her companions, expressing frustration that her plans to cook have been interrupted. Anist confirms that the barrier is indeed theirs, but notes that its current configuration is more troublesome than usual. The dark-skinned elf stands silently beside them. Anist's eyes narrow in thought. She identifies the intruders as the 5 strongest humans, known as the thieves. A calculating look crosses her face as she realizes this chaotic situation might be something she can use to her advantage. The group quickly discusses their strategy. DEFEATS states they have no choice but to fight, but since their opponent is a demon, they can't afford to be polite. The red-haired woman agrees, suggesting they only need to restrain him. DEFEATS considers sealing him in the basement. Anist, however, interjects that humans are not their true opponents, and Karuru agrees, confirming their plan is simply to restrain him. Alone, the dark-skinned elf woman clenches her fist, her expression fraught with conflict. She cannot bring herself to kill fellow humans. She reminds herself that it is her duty as a hero to protect the human world. The spiky-haired man smirks, announcing that he won't kill his opponents, as that would be boring. He believes that by holding back, he'll give them a chance to escape, which they will surely take. He then issues an ultimatum. They have 1 minute to come out. Nearby, the red-haired woman rallies her group, warning that they'll be in trouble if they're all kicked out of the garden. Her attention, however, shifts to DEFEATS. She asks bluntly if DEFEATS is some rich young lady, then gestures behind her and asks if her sister is in the back. DEFEATS glares back, clearly annoyed by the ill-timed questions. She is immediately confronted by a woman with long, light-colored hair, who questions her claim of having a demon for a lover, calling it a pathetic excuse. The woman retorts that her lover is indeed a demon, and warns them to leave quickly. From a distance, the spiky-haired man scoffs at the word lover. He finds it laughable that his opponent is not only a demon, but such a young girl, dismissing the entire notion as a joke. He continues his taunts with a cruel smile, vowing to bring the man to her, violate her repeatedly, and then wring every last drop from her. A sudden, sharp sound cuts through the air, causing the dark-skinned elf to flinch in alarm. The sound seems to affect all the defenders, who stand frozen with expressions of shock and dread. The light-haired woman looks on in horror, demanding the intruders leave at once. Below, a monstrous, shadowy figure with a wicked grin raises a massive sword over the red-haired woman, declaring that she must die for her master's sake. The spiky-haired man watches, startled. The massive blade swings down, cleaving through the woman's body in a brutal, vertical slash. Anist screams in anguish. The red-haired woman, impaled and bleeding, looks down in disbelief, her last thoughts questioning if she will ever bear Jakoan's child. Kiruru's face contorts with pure rage. She declares that she will never forgive them, vowing that she and her companions are the only ones permitted to take what they want, and that they will exterminate every last one of the intruders. The light-haired woman clutches her chest as a powerful, unfamiliar emotion surges through her. She wonders aloud if this feeling is love, and if it means she is no longer human or even a demon lord. Anist recoils in fear from this sudden, intense display. Meanwhile, the spiky-haired man has already fled, running towards a distant village. He remarks to himself that he managed to escape. The transformed woman, her ears now pointed, looks on with cold authority. She remarks that to return to one's homeland only to unhesitatingly kill a fellow human is a shocking act. Behind her, another woman observes that after being cornered like this, there is no escape. Her attention then turns to the massive sky dragon left behind. She realizes that with its master gone, its fate now falls to her, the head of the demon clan. In an instant, the colossal beast shrinks down to a tiny, whimpering creature. A hand gently pats its tail as it trembles, a high-ranking dragon reduced to a harmless state. Seeing this, the red-haired woman begins to cry. The disguised leader asks why she is weeping now. The dark elf woman interjects, calling her leader Jakoan and telling her to wait. Jakoan explains that the dragon was also a victim, captured and used by humans. He tells the woman to think carefully, as the dragon's eye seems to reflect a pained understanding. She is overcome, marveling at how kind he is and how much he must have loved his partner. Anist, moved by the scene, enthusiastically suggests they keep the dragon as a pet. As the others agree, she proposes naming it Suchan, and the dragon, now restored to a larger size, looks on. Jakoan watches them, a severe look on his face. The dark elf woman observes that he has now commanded a dragon, but he seems irritated, realizing he's been used and given a name without his consent. He snaps in annoyance, pointing out that there's a dragon right there. Suddenly, Anna spots a group approaching from a nearby village, armed with makeshift weapons. She reports that the remnants of the thieves must have spread word that the 5 ladies of the demon clan were here. Clicking her tongue, she laments that they should have eliminated everyone. The commotion becomes too much. The red-haired woman and Divias collapse into the tall grass, exhausted. The former complains that this is turning into a huge mess, and they can't be bothered dealing with a band of thieves. They are soon confronted by the armed villagers. One villager scornfully points out their weapons as the tools of murderers and announces that they've brought the village exorcist. The red-haired woman demands to know where the demon clan is, but Divias interjects, stating that the man they seek is harmless and nowhere to be found. The villagers press closer around the red-haired woman. A bearded man pleads with her, asking why she loves him so much when it's causing such trouble. An older woman adds that because of them, Jakoan was seen as an enemy and was forced to flee. The tense standoff with the villagers is shattered by a new arrival. A tall warrior with a high ponytail looks upon the human casualties with disdain, remarking that it is clearly the work of demons. From the shadows, a commanding voice issues an ultimatum to Jakoan, calling him Jakoan, come out to be killed or be burned alive, for there will be no escape. She steps into the light, a woman with long, pale hair and pointed ears, a cruel smile on her face. She mocks Jakoan's immobility, thanking the local farmers for their unwitting assistance and declaring that none can defy the power of the jewel she possesses. A curse now binds Jakoan. Though his physical strength remains, he is trapped in this land, unable to leave. With a confident leap, she descends upon them. Below, Anist cries out in alarm. Her detection magic is utterly useless. Kiruru's time-space abilities are equally ineffective without a clear target or strategy. The elf-like woman, however, feels only triumph, knowing she has finally reached her goal. In a flash, she seizes Jakoan by the hair, pulling his head back. A wide, manic laugh escapes her as she declares her victory, proclaiming that from this moment on, he is hers. Her tone abruptly changes, becoming almost encouraging. She tells Jakoan that their demon race will be revived, and that he shouldn't let himself be killed by humans who gave him such a strange nickname. Jakoan stares back, his expression one of pure confusion. She snaps at his bewilderment, calling him an idiot. The life-or-death confrontation devolves into a bizarre, frantic argument over which direction they should go. Suddenly breaking off the argument, she dashes away, holding a glowing orb. All right, it's projected, she shouts, adding that there was no other way to achieve her aim. Jakoan watches, stunned, as she reveals her gambit. The entire world is now watching them. He can only repeat her words in disbelief. The whole world, as if to prove her point, she gestures to the sky. Massive, ethereal images of Divyas and the red-haired woman with blue streaks materialize among the clouds, their faces etched with shock. Elsewhere, Divyas realizes with horror that they're being broadcast. She flushes, finding the situation deeply embarrassing, and identifies the phenomenon as projection magic, a spell meant for grand speeches, now being used for the spectacle. She and the others watched the magical projection unfold. The red-haired woman with blue streaks in her hair nervously asked if this was truly all right, but Karuru confirmed that everything was perfect. In the foreground, Anna stared into the light, a chilling thought taking root. She wondered if their entire existence, which they had risked so much to keep secret, had been for nothing. Her train of thought was shattered as Divyas gasped, a sudden realization dawning on her. Anna's body suddenly seized. With a look of pure anguish, she screamed for Jakoan to come back immediately. A desperate, possessive thought echoed in her mind. She couldn't let him get away. She wouldn't let him escape.